tautoko I tō tātou nei kaupapa I tēnei rā. Miriana Stevens, the ball is yours.
Mai ngā kuri a whārei ki te hirai ki ngā pāpaka arangatawa. Ko mau te maunga, ko tauranga te moana. Nuri mai rā ki te upoko o te ika, ki te moana o raukawa. Whakapiti atu rā ki te maunga o tū. Ko motuka te awa, ko te awhina te marae, ko tirangāpe ki te hapu, Ngāti Rārua te iwi, ko Miriana Stevens tōku ingoa. E ngā whānau, ngā hapu o te Tairāwhiti, kei te mihi, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. Me ngā rauranga tira mākua tai mai nei I tēnei rā, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. So, as Ngārangi mentioned, yes, my name is Miriana Stevens and I do come from the best two places in Aotearoa, New Zealand, where I'm of Ngāti Rangi descent from Tauranga Moana and Ngāti Rārua from the metropolis of Motueka, in the top of the South Island. I'm also a mother of 4 children and a small business owner with interests in education and social enterprises. And I'd firstly just like to thank Kitty, Manu and Pānapa for the invitation to be here today and to share a little bit about the Wakatu journey and innovation. And actually I did start to have a little bit of a giggle because I know that when we used to live in Hamilton, and I think about place and I think about actually how you connect them to people. And when our kids were at kohanga, they used to come home and do their mihi to us, and they would say, ko hikurangi te maunga, ko waiapui te awa. And of course, my husband, who was from Ngāti Maniapoto, was quite distressed. However, I must say, that was the influence, I guess, of te Tairāwhiti and Kirikiriroa. So firstly, I thought I might just share a little bit more about myself before I get into the journey of Wakatu. I was born and raised in Motueka by my grandparents, and I guess that was the best gift that my mother gave to me when she had me when she was 17 years old, was to be raised by them. And I guess their motto was, it's an honour to serve their whānau, to serve our marae, our hapu, and of course the wider community. And in growing up in that community, we really relied on our neighbours, our workers, and the farming community to make a living. My grandparents, they grew the good things in life in terms of tobacco and hops. And a lot of seasonal workers, and especially a lot of them were Maori, would come into our town. And our marae community, we would gather clothes, we would feed the families that would come in and make them feel welcomed. And I guess for me that was manaakitanga, that was being caring and kind to others at its best. And I guess it was also an opportunity for my grandmother, who came from Tauranga, and as a native speaker, to be able to practice her reo in a predominantly Pākehā community. And I remember we used to go up the main street of Motueka and she would do a big karanga, a big call to all those Māori seasonal workers that would come into town. And of course we'd be 10 paces behind because we'd want to hide. I mean, who would do that? It wasn't cool, but I often think actually how times have changed. So I'm an owner and director of Wakatu Incorporation, and it was formed in 1977, and I didn't actually end up being a director by accident, but I've come through our scholarship, our associate director programs, which is really succession, mentoring and leadership by design. And here is a slide, and you can't really see it too well, but that's the slide, or those are the names of the 254 ancestors in 1891 who were the owners of land in the top of the south. They come from the groupings, from the tribal groupings of Ngāti Rārua, Ngāti Koata, Ngāti Tama and Te Atiawa. And they were kin. They were grandparents, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, cousins and children who left Kāwhia and Taranaki between 1828 and 1834 on a series of epic migrations. And they settled in the top of the south in terms of being in Blenheim and Marlborough, right across into Nelson, Motueka and into Mōhua, Golden Bay. And often I think, when I've had a hard day at the board table, I often think, geez, I don't think I would have survived one of those migrations in terms of the walking. And I guess for us, Te Tauihu, it's our home. It's our tūranga waiwai, it's a place where we feel connected and empowered. And since the first days of contact with Pākehā European settlers coming into our region, our people have fed, they housed and they traded with them to ensure their survival and well-being. We were the original providors of the region, securing and providing food to the world. By the early 1850s, we had a global reach with 5 of the 17 export trading ships at the Port of Nelson registered in the name of our ancestors. We quickly recognised the value of partnership with non-Maori, and for a short time we prospered. So I often have the joy of actually telling my children that innovation, that entrepreneurship is not new to us as a people throughout our journey. However, this prosperity was stymied because we know that the Crown and the New Zealand company, they conspired to satisfy a real insatiable hunger for land. And to do this, the families in the top of the south were removed from the equation and from their homes. So after more than 120 years of patience, impatience, petitions, letters and court hearings, we regained the control of the remnants of what land holdings were left. And since that time, we've really reconnected and replenished the Maori, the life force, and of our tūranga waiwai, our place. So we've resumed the mantle of kaitiaki, of custodianship, of our legacy, and we have diversified into industries that are the lifeblood of the economy in our region. And so we're a family business and we're a big whānau because there's 4,000 of us that don't all live in Motueka, but they live all around New Zealand and around the world. And our purpose is really to preserve and enhance our legacy for the benefit of current and future generations. And this year we're actually celebrating 3 milestones in our journey. The first is the recent decision of the Supreme Court regarding our land, whereby it is the first time that the courts of New Zealand have recognised that the Crown can owe legally enforceable rights to Māori when acting on their behalf to protect their property rights. It is a really unique case in seeking justice for historic wrongs through the courts rather than a political treaty settlement process. The second celebration is that Wakatu, we are 40 years young. And our third celebration is that tohu, and I'm sure many of you may have tasted some of our award-winning wines, is 20 years old. And I really love the tohu story because I guess, as I mentioned, every Māori actually thinks they own tohu. And it really shows the power of a brand, it shows the power of a story, and actually how it can connect us all. In 2011, Wakatu, we adopted Te Tairāwhiti. It is our 500-year intergenerational strategic plan, which we live and breathe every day. It's an ambitious plan because it actually governs everything that we do. And one of our key objectives of that plan is around the financial growth and security. We must ensure that our assets continue to improve in value and that we are building an organisation that creates wealth in the communities that we serve. Our other core objectives relate to our relationship to the environment, which is conceived as one whole. This is because our water and our land is indivisible. And I actually remember one of my ancestors in Tauranga, standing up in the native land court, saying that the sea was really just an extension of his garden. So in respect of our environment, it must be well and healthy, full of life and vitality. This is not only because our whenua deserves to be healthy in its own right, because the wellness of our people is intrinsically linked to the well-being of our environment. When the land and water are sick, so are its people. And we know that many New Zealand companies are exploring the concept of sustainability, and kaitiakitanga is beginning to be used more and more in its place in an attempt to describe our unique place in the world and the love that we have for our place and our products. This is our message, this is our core value proposition as Māori and as New Zealanders. So I guess when I think what really makes us different as an organisation is our deep connection and commitment to tangata and whenua, people and land, as well as our products. And I'll actually talk a little bit more further on this in terms of our next slide, or when I get onto the innovation program. So quickly, there are 3 parts to us at Wakatu. in terms of our family business. So Manaaki, our people and culture. We can have the biggest empire in the world, but it's nothing without the people. We are the largest employer in the top of the South, and we are significant investors in the well-being of our next generation. And I'm really pleased that the owners have made a commitment to the next generation. We have lots of wānanga for our kids, for example. We bring them in at 10 years old, right through to 18. And I think fundamentally for us, it's really about identity. It's about who are we and where do we come from. So instead of them talking about what their maunga, and they're actually climbing their maunga. In terms of they're paddling in the awa, they're paddling in the sea. So that real connection. And then we actually bring them, we can look at the different industries that we're involved in. How might they start to be the job creators in the future? What does the future of work look like in terms of their eyes? And then the other programs that we have a really strong alumni network. So we support our whānau that may want to go through university. The reality is they won't be elitists, no whānau left behind, because not everyone's going to university, but they actually have a lot to bring to the table. So how do you start to connect with each other in terms of the value that we can bring? So I would like to say, in terms of our AGMs, 35% would be under the age of 30 that attend. And we do some really cool things. We have Wakatu Master Chef, so they actually start to cook with our products, and we have ambassadors within Cornwall, New Zealand, and there's some of the top chefs in New Zealand, so they're the judges. And the whānau are really competitive, and they come up with some really amazing things. We have Wakatu Wipeout, because we are keen in terms of physically the well-being of our people, so that's always super competitive. And in Ahika too, because a lot of our people don't live at home, and they're very quick to judge, and they say, who's that person out there? We're at the marae, and I said, oh, that's our cousin. I said, oh, what are they doing? And he said, would you like them to come and help us wash the dishes? And things like that. And so it's actually, how do you start to bridge some of those gaps between those that live in the rohe and those that don't? So our Ahika program is really one of our strong ones. The second strand to our business is around our whenua. It's 70% of our asset base, so we're the custodians of a large estate. And that really consists of our cultural lands, perpetual leases, commercial and residential developments, extends into water space, so we've got about 770 hectares of water space, as well as all the licences that come with it, and also quota. And then there's Cornwall, New Zealand, which is our food and drinks basket to the world. Love for the land, respect for the sea. And our Cornwall refers to the beautiful harakeke, the flax woven basket, which was traditionally used to serve the best food from our region to our manuhiri, to our visitors. So we are the artisan producer and exporter of award-winning wines, cider, seafood, pip fruit, hops and natural fruit bars to over 40 countries in the world. We have an office in Shanghai that has 3 people working from it. And we also recently acquired Yellow Brick Road, which is a multiple award-winning food distribution company, which is invested in responsible farming and fishing to the country's best restaurants. And of course, underpinning Cornwall in New Zealand is quite an extensive new product development and research and development program. So through the passage of time, the world has challenged us to innovate, to become the scientists, the researchers, the winemakers, the branders, the marketers, the viticulturalists, and the leaders. And so during the last couple of years, there's been a lot of discussions and debate, interactions with our owners, our alumni, our kaumātua, and our JV partners about, actually what is the next phase in terms of the journey of Wakatu look like. And out of that was born the Wakatu Innovation Strategy. And as if I haven't got enough on my plate in terms of a lot of the work that I already do, I took on, the privilege and the honour to become the Executive Director of Innovation for the Wakatu Group. So I actually just wanted to spend a little bit of time just going through actually what our innovation strategy looks like for Wakatu. And you may have heard yesterday and through your travels, there's a lot of buzzwords that people use. Synthetic meats, disruptive technologies, disruption. And I guess, innovation is really one of those sort of buzzwords. And for us at Wakatu, innovation simply means doing things better and doing better things. Very simple. And our 15-year goal for innovation is that we are nationally and internationally recognised as being leading edge in our industries and new business development in a way that values and recognises our customary knowledge and practices. And so over the next 5 years, we're focusing on 2 key programs. One of them is around land and water wellness, and the other one is around our high value add program. So in terms of our land and water wellness program, our 5-year goal is that our thinking and framework and practices will be leading edge, so that we can actually start to provide surety to our whānau and our customers that we know the state of our land and water, and that our practices contribute to land and ecosystem wellbeing. So over the next 5 years, we're focusing on those particular projects. We've just started the development of our thinking, our framework and methodology to actually assess the wellness of our lands. And actually, what do we mean by wellness in terms of our own customary knowledge? And actually, how do you start to then think about, Western science and how that potentially can integrate into that? So areas of, soil, water, biodiversity, greenhouse gas emissions, etc. And then, of course, related to that is just around production efficiencies on farm and how precision agriculture links into that. And once we've done that assessment, and we'll probably be finished that within the next 6 months, if our land is found to be unwell in terms of our thinking and beliefs, what might a remediation program look like? So we will start to look at that. And I guess for us, in terms of our history, what happened is that when some of our land started to come back to us, they had apples, they had pears, they had kiwi fruit. Next minute, that's what we're growing. So, a lot of those lands were unwell. So, and we've still got a lot of lands on our perpetual leases. So we're trying to also, we want to develop a program that we actually get our lessees on board with the models that we're creating. So one day when that land actually comes back to us, it is in a well state. At the same time, we're conducting a literature review in terms of our catchment. We don't like to think about our blocks in isolation. The river, we belong to the river, we belong to the moana. So what is the state in terms of the wellness of that? So, because at the end of the day, we don't separate either. They're all interconnected. So that work will be taking place. And alongside this, we've actually started to collect massive amount of data, both externally and internally. And one example of that is that we've just got a project, and actually Steve's group through Plus Group are involved with that. We're catching real-time data on our vineyards, and the guys in the vineyards have said, what are some of the key areas that they want to measure. We've got that down pat, and we'll be getting those data sets come through so that can help them in terms of their performance on farm. Once we have that down pat on the vineyards, then we'll be rolling that out onto the other parts of our farming operations, including our water space. All those data sets then come into a centralised platform, it's analysed, and then we're hoping that it's going to make things easier for our managers as well as our board in terms of actually how, in terms of the level of investment that might need to be made moving forward. But we also know that you can have a lot of technology, you can have a lot of frameworks, you can have a lot of tools, but unless the teams on the farm or on the ground see the value in what you're trying to achieve, they won't use it. They'll still be trying to, write things on the back of envelopes and bits and pieces. So I think the education program, the training is really critical if you are implementing any new systems and bits and pieces. How do you actually get the people on board with that? So through this particular program, we've got really good relationships with a lot of the Crown Research Institutes. Ones that come to mind off the top of my head is Manaaki Whenua, land care. We've also got some tech projects happening with Lincoln Agri-Tech. We're looking at systems that are in at Victoria University. So there's a whole lot of, we try to work with the best. And it's been the last 2 years of actually seeing what is the best, systems knowledge, where does it exist within those research institutes. The next big program for us is our High Value Add program. So over the next 5 years, we'll have a well-structured portfolio of high value add opportunities in different stages of development that provide health and wellness solutions to the consumer. And I often joke, especially with my team, and I've got quite a strong board, because I always say to them, no pet projects. Because they come up with about 1,000 million ideas, right? So you have to try and sort of navigate your way through that. So having a really good, I guess, disciplined structure or robust selection process is quite important. And of course, you should be working back from the consumer. You know, it should be the consumer pull. We shouldn't just be growing things on the land for the sake of it. So it's really having a really good market entry strategy when you're developing all these new solutions. Business models is really critical. We don't have to own and control things, so everything. So who might we partner with? And then of course, you know, how does science and technology support that? And we're actually putting a flag in the ground, and we're saying that actually Tairāwhiti can be the natural products capital of New Zealand, of Aotearoa, and that's what we're planning for. We're doing, we love brands, so obviously the investment in a new Maori and Pacifica brand is on our radar. It's in development, and I'm really excited that that brand and what we can do can actually provide a portfolio of solutions to the world. So our programs, we've got some big R&D programs in marine around breeding, around genetics, growing systems, especially out in open ocean aquaculture. A lot of work going on around actually having a look at the best extraction and processing technology, and we've got some new products that are coming out of that. In terms of indigenous organisms, we've just begun the journey of curating our library of all our taonga species in Te Tairāwhiti. I think that's really important for us. A lot of people are waiting for the Crown to, to make their, I guess, well, to give their response to Y262. We are not waiting. We will have a response, because at the end of the day, everything that is in Te Tairāwhiti is under our custodianship. That is our stance. So what's happening with that, we've got researchers in, they're coming in and they're looking at a historical record, they're putting all that information together, and then alongside that we're running a biodiscovery program in terms of having a look at the opportunities within those taonga species. Within horticulture, we're hop growers, and we actually just finished mapping all our waste streams across the Wakatu group, from energy, water use, right through to things like grape mart. And then what we did was we had a look in terms of, well, what are other people doing in our region in terms of those waste streams. Potentially we could actually be really smart and actually collaborate and get together and have a good program about what we might do with those waste streams. But we actually found some really good bioactivity in the hops, especially around the fibres. So we've got a good program happening in that. But I guess what we also found, that hops has some, I guess, some relations, and that is really in hemp and around cannabis. That's the family. And apparently those particular, I know hops does it, but apparently hemp and cannabis grows quite well in our region, probably here too, I would think. But anyway, that's how we've sort of connected with Manu and Tānapa in the whānau, because again, we can do all these things by ourselves, but actually how do you start to mobilise, and how can Maori actually start to lead some of these industries and have some influence. So, and what we like about the hemp especially is the fact that environmentally it's got some good, it's really good in terms of remediation, and of course it's a regenerative crop, so we're quite excited about that. And I guess, when you run a program like we've got, there's some key learnings that we've found along the way. And it's not easy, especially when you're in an entity which is as large as ours and diverse and very competitive. So I thought I might just actually quickly share you some of the key learnings that we've found. And I think fundamentally, being raised like I have and having a board that is really, when you think about trust and having integrity, it really comes back to being pono. Being pono to our purpose, to our values, and actually living and breathing this. And we're not going anywhere, but we've got a great platform that we can leverage, but it's now understanding our priorities, it's understanding our risk profile, and actually having even more courage. And I think what I love about my whānau is that we will take a stand on an issue because it's actually the right thing to do. And some of you may know of actually some of the review that's happening around the Plant Variety Rights Act. The next one off the cab, the government will do a review around copyright. But actually, we're taking a stand around Māori intellectual property. We're happy that we will be hosting next year in the top of the South Island a conference on that. So we can actually, again, get a position as Māori as opposed to waiting for the Crown or the government to actually start negotiating fair trade agreements, well, more free trade agreements, etc. It's actually how do we start to mobilise in that space. Secondly, it's been necessary for our board and our senior team members and partners to actually address the knowledge gaps that actually inhibit us from thinking and behaving innovatively and being agile. So we've created a bit of a lift and shift experience for our members. And it's actually been quite shocking. I think that when they start to get futurists in, they start to think about robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, they're just like, what the hell? We're doomed. But actually, it's just about, us thinking in that space, thinking about our values, and, how can you get the best of everything, really? So I'm really excited that the fact that my 80-year-old uncle is really up with the play in terms of what's happening in that whole space. He actually blows us away. Again, we talk about, the new business models, the types of partners that we might want to have on board, and actually really wanting to get close to the consumer. Because even though we have, sort of an innovation team, innovation is actually about building a culture. It's actually, how do you normalise that within your entities? And it's just about having, the right mindset so that we can achieve our purpose. So that's, building that culture of innovation across our group is really important to us. And the third thing that we've learned is that we actually have to invest in our people, in our network, and really a fit-for-purpose innovation and education ecosystem. As I mentioned, we don't have to know or own and control everything. It's about being smart and it's about being engaged. And, I talked a little bit about the investment that we have with our owners and the next generation. That is paramount, it's critical to us. Because actually, they design the new solutions for the future. So how do you actually start to bring them on board earlier? And I guess, when I think about creating a fit-for-purpose innovation and ecosystem, it's really actually being focused on commercial results that are aligned with our values and consumer needs, rather than a system that is tied to traditional academic output. And I've actually been involved with the science community over the few years, and I really like the people and I really like their passion. But what can be a real challenge is that when the institutions want to take 6 years to complete a program at the expense of speed and agility. To me personally, and my humble opinion, I do think there's a lot of wasteful practice in the whole R&D space. It's noisy when the window to commercialisation of an innovation is really limited, and this needs addressing. When we didn't have our R&D programs all set up, we used to get a phone call and I would know that there was a bid that was coming up. And then I would say to them, on the other end, once somebody ringing up saying, we want to put in this bid for a MB Endeavour Fund, for example. And then I said, are you just ringing me up because you want to tick the Vision Mātauranga box? And then it was like deeply, silence. I was like, okay. But actually, what that actually meant to us was actually we needed to get our own house in order. And that's pretty much what we have done. Now we can get the best brains, we can get them coming into us. We say, this is the program. We want the best people working on it. How are we going to make it happen? But that was about us, really taking control of that whole space. So just to finalise, I think as we've embarked on our innovation journey, it's really been a deep introspection to determine what being a better kaitiaki means to us. And when I talk about kaitiaki, it's not just about the environment. It's about our people. It's about the place that we come from, yes, the planet, and it's also about building sustainable business models that underpin that. And, I often think what it means to us might be totally different for other Māori entities, and we don't know yet how it will impact on what we do, but we know it will, because it's inevitable, and it's actually a welcome part of our growth, development, and our evolution. So I just wanted to end my kōrero today with a whakatauki that I think really resonates to me in terms of what I've shared with you today. And it's toi tū te marae a tāne, toi tū te marae a tangaroa, and toi tū te iwi. If the world of tāne, all living things on land are sustained, if the marae of tangaroa, the lakes, the rivers and sea are sustained, so too is the future of humanity. Nō reira I rauranga tira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa.